Hello, hello, hello. All right, this is the first time we're using live streaming. Well, at least it's been a while since we last used live streaming, so I don't know how well this will go, but let's find out. Especially since we don't have a lot of people watching live right now. Okay, let's get started. The 16 commandments of big ticket business. The business that you should be in, most probably. There's always a reason to be in big ticket business, and the primary reason why you should be in big ticket business is because whenever you're not selling something that is commodity, something that is commodified, something that's a commodity, you're basically in the business of selling a big ticket item, right? When you're selling big ticket items, the rules of engagement are very different from, let's say, when people are just walking around and impulse purchasing. With that in mind, let's get started about the 16 commandments I wrote about selling big ticket items and why they are very different from selling anything else, because you're dealing with clients on a one-on-one basis and it's a different ballgame altogether. Let's get started. All right, commandment number 1, never ever chase the client. Everyone craves the feeling of having found and acquired something that others cannot get, that they are worthy of taking advantage of an offer that would not be made attainable to a lesser person. They want to be accepted where acceptance is only granted to the finest men and women of the planet. They want to access the inaccessible to acquire the invaluable. The more hoops someone has to jump through to get in, the more they value the access to that place. The seller who will just take anyone's credit card robs his clients of the satisfaction of proving their mettle through uniquely qualifying themselves for the offer. Though you may be emaciated for funds, resist the urge to make it a cinch for them to get enrolled. Ask them qualifying catechisms, questions that weed out the non-ideal prospects. Be very strict about who you let in, then actually weed out those who do not qualify to your rigorous standards. And by rigorous standards, I mean really rigorous standards. Standards you gotta have, standards you gotta enforce. Soon, word will disseminate and you'll have hordes of people lining up to do business with you, or at least to try to do business with you, to try their luck, right? That's the first rule. The second commandment of big ticket business is guard your reputation with your life. Woe becomes seller who's ever ready to receive a client. A busy seller is a wanted seller. A wanted seller is seldom randomly available. The thought of you jumping with joy upon their arrival will make them relinquish their confidence in you and consequently in your offer. It's no longer about what is for sale. Today, it's all about who is selling it. It's about the brand. A sturdy reputation will do all the selling for you. Your job is to acquire and then harness and protect the reputation that renders selling superfluous. We bear no freedom to choose whom we place our trust in. And there is no more significant testament to your competence, reputation, and attractiveness to customers than the live presence of daunting numbers of other customers waiting to give you their money. The commandment number 3, constantly invest in your business. Your business is the single greatest asset you will ever own. It is also the best investment opportunity you have right now, because this is the only investment opportunity where you control the outcome to a great extent. If you don't lend your business enough credence to regularly make increasingly intensified investments in it, why should someone else? Acquire assets of all kinds that enable your business to run smoother and more efficiently. Acquire skill sets that empower you to constitute your business machine. Acquire talents who out-innovate, out-market, and outperform your competitors. And most importantly, acquire clients. If a large chunk of your investment is made in client acquisition process, then you are on a trail blazed by the deft. Rule number 4, do not accept the way it's done. Acceptance is not for winners. Every industry latches on to a way in which things are to be done. Around here, every single one. Following what everyone else is doing and doing it their way, doing it the way they're all doing, makes you boring. And being boring is the cardinal sin, the biggest, greatest sin in the world of marketing. You can concertedly be wrong, but you can't be boring. You can conceivably be offensive, but you really cannot be boring. You might even afford to alienate everyone as long as you're not boring, and you'll do all fine, okay? But be boring and you're done. Court controversy if you must, but do not be without your market's attention. The simplest way to proceed soundly in the business, in any business, is to witness what everyone else is doing and then executing the exact opposite of what they're doing, because what everyone else is doing is boring. People are bored, okay? Your audience is bored, and it's your responsibility to keep them entertained. So if they're all selling their services at rock bottom prices, be the contrarian and charge the heftiest premium that you can think of. One that they dare not dream of, your competitors that is. When cigarette companies were all attempting to brand themselves safe, customers actually ceased believing that cigarettes were safe, right? So what did the smart businessman do? He branded his cigarette Toasted. He just didn't talk about it being safe. He unhinged the playing field. He lapsed a mention of safety in his ads. He transposed the issue to relate to something no one else was talking about. When everyone else is extolling the virtues of fuel efficiency and speed, associate yourself with prestige. When everyone else is endlessly spouting the virtues of progressiveness, narrate those of conservativeness. Do the exact opposite of what everyone else in your market is doing. It goes without saying that this commandment doesn't apply just to what you're reciting, but also to what you're executing and the manner in which you're performing it. If all restaurants and cafes kick patrons out after an hour past the last order, be the first that doesn't. If all of them are shaving their advertising budgets, triple and quadruple yours, because now is the time to fervently cast a crater in the market while fabricating your market share and destroying theirs. When everyone else is content with employing the cheapest low-wage employees they can find, go out and employ grads and smart people. Then engineer a process to make them 10 times more efficient through use of technology and automation than your competitors can. When everyone else is distributing a free ebook, chalk out a paperback and charge a premium for it. You don't have to be very astute in business as long as you internalize this. What everyone else is doing is almost always fallacious. Just execute the exact opposite and you'll be fine. Commandment number 5, disproportionately adhere to the golden numbers. The average client will convey 250% of their initial sales revenue each year as long as you have a solid follow-up mechanism and system. 1 in 5 buyers will accept a 4 times more expensive offer in addition to their initial order. Over half your revenues will be received from less than 1% of your clients, assuming you have enough number of clients. Disproportionately allocate your resources to the top 1% of your clients because that's where most of your revenue and consequently profit will come from. A 4 times longer and a 4 times more expensive marketing campaign shall produce 3 times as many sales from the same target audience. If you spend $10,000 on a marketing campaign targeting 5,000 people and receives 100 sales, you will receive 300 sales from the same audience should you be willing to spend $40,000. These 300 clients will, over the course of a year, purchase at least 250% as much as they do during the initial sale if you follow up with them sufficiently. Of these 300 customers, 60 will purchase 4 times more expensive product or service at checkout in addition to their original purchase. of those 60, 12 will additionally accept an offer 16 times more expensive, 16 times more expensive than the original purchase. So those are your golden numbers. 1 in 5 will always buy a 4 times more expensive offer in addition to what they've already bought. Rule number 6. You are in the client acquisition and retention business, or as some would call it, the marketing business. Incoherent business owners acquire clients so that they may make a sale. Deft business owners, on the other hand, make sales in order to acquire clients. No matter what you sell, there are two businesses you run. The first is the client acquisition business. You may not turn a significant profit in this division of your business. You may not even turn a profit at all in this business. Actually, in highly competitive markets, you may have to incur a loss in this business, and you'll still be swell as long as your other business functions properly. But before we initiate a slightly more elaborate discussion on the other side of your business, let's resume our conversation of client acquisition. The only reason why you want to sell something to a new prospect is to acquire them in the form of a client. This is the essence of your first business. You do not do it to mint money. Any money you make is immediately reinvested into acquisition of more clients. Should you lose money in the process, you'd be well advised to take a chunk of the profit from the other business and then reinvest in this business. Not just to keep the client acquisition business afloat, but thriving. Most business owners misconstrue this. They assume they are acquiring a customer to make a sale and to turn a profit, when in actuality, it's the exact opposite. You sometimes gladly incur a loss to acquire a new client. Okay, so let's talk about the second business you're running, and that is retention. That begins with a conversion. Now, I'm not just talking about the literal conversion of a prospect into a client here. I'm also talking about the actual mindset of a person as he or she invests more and more time and money with you and your brand and travels further along the road you've laid out for them. This business has rarely anything to do with sales. Sales transactions are natural byproducts of the retention practices. Sales are what keep you and your employees fed and what enable you to acquire and retain more customers. But that's what they do. That's all they do. So what is this business about? Well, this business is all about producing fanatic followers of your company. People so immensely fanatic about you or your brand that they will get into altercation with someone just to defend your reputation. Actually, literally, physically fight in some cases. This means that the Herculean task of selling actually commences after the first order is placed, not before, contrary to popular belief. You've only just sold them a product or service thus far, and that's relatively easy. Selling and buying are the only sexy aspects of any business. Everyone loves cavorting with money, okay? At the conclusion of the first transaction, the selling process ought to have only just begun. The difficult stint is convincing. Convincing them to align their mindset to be in synchronization with yours. The first sale is tantamount to them saying, all right, I was skeptical, but I'm going to give you a shot. Show me what you got. Now, converting them from that mindset to, I cannot believe I have lived my entire life without ever buying anything from you. How did I ever get on in my life before? That is a rather monumental feat, and that is what retention is all about. You don't just want customers who pay you money when they must. Worse are the customers who'll engage with any seller to get what they want, with absolutely no regard for the brand or supplier or the seller, but it's not on them. Because the selling has only just commenced when you've made the first sale. What you want are raving fans, people who will send you more clients by way of referrals, people who will assimilate your imbibed mindset so strongly that they will concatenate in a queue the night prior to the launch of your latest program. People who will not just cease being amazed by and disseminating their cheer regarding your products. People who will brag about possessing your products or being a part of the tribe of your customers, that is. What you also want are the people who will not have unrealistic expectations of you, people who know that your value and your worth is derived from a source very different from the other vendors, and consequently will not misjudge you for not providing other features like speed or cheapness or constant 24/7 availability. Now, I'm not saying don't provide these options, but sometimes it just doesn't do anything to add perceived value to a product. Okay, so eliminate waste when a feature doesn't raise the perceived value of an offer by skipping the feature in its entirety. You gotta be bold here. This is the place for cost cutting. Commandment number 7, limit the power that even the largest clients of yours wield. Never ever allow yourself to be an occupied vendor. A seller with options is a seller without desperate need. It builds self-confidence in competence and encourages negotiation with a potential client if you have multiple safety nets. If you already have 4 or more meetings lined up for the next week, are you going to be devastated when a potential client is uninterested? Of course not. A client knows when he signed the contract and handed you a check, he has abdicated a measure of his power. But when he has started echoing your mindset and philosophy, he's surrendered nearly all of it. But here's the thing about mindsets. They are ephemeral. With time, he may rediscover his power and threaten to hire your competitor. It is his final trump card to get you to accommodate him on the terms that do not suit you well. Withdrawing all his cash in an instant will rip a hole in your bank account and your willpower as well if you're faced with having to dent your savings to survive your business as well as yourself. Having to lean on your savings account isn't going to be salubrious for your personal relationships either. Having enough clients that your company's and your own financial future is secure, even if your topmost client leaves, will reinforce your will and render the terms of your engagement unbreachable. As long as your terms are fair, you'll never need to accommodate an unreasonable client, which a lot of people do. Should you find yourself in the precarious position of having a lone client, just one client at all, who basically brings in a significant portion of your business, say over 20%, then serve them well, of course, bide your time if you must, and accommodate their unreasonable demands if you must, but do it from a position of power anyway. Do it as if you believe their requests to be most fair and reasonable terms possible. And in the background, silently and swiftly employ a proportion of the profit begotten from their business to acquire more clients. Soon, their sway over your business will be reduced. Commandment number 8, stand your ground. It's a politically correct world out there. If you say or do something that does not go over well with the popular crowd, which you inevitably will sooner or later, in your quest to court attention and to reject the conventional wisdom's many suggestions, then be prepared to be attacked. A lot. Now, it may sound scary. Controversy is thrilling when its shadow transpires over someone else's heads, right? But when it happens to you, it becomes it has the potential to become very unnerving. Should you trust your axiomatically capricious feelings in such tumultuous times, you'll find yourself praying on your knees for the storm to blow over and be forgotten, cast into the obscurity of archived but rarely retrieved pages of history. If you trust your feelings, you might even feel guilty for having gotten muddled up in the dirty quagmire of politics that seems so far removed from your business that it might all feel pointless. You will subsequently seriously contemplate adopting a posture of submission to hasten the passage of the storm. But your feelings belie you. An apology invariably begets an intensified expectation of another apology. Should your contrition become apparent, not only will you sustain immediate scathing from your detractors, whom you will yourself have branded scrupulous, right? But also an expeditious expectation by your current clients for all the perceived slights they've incurred over the years at your hands. Then they'll summarily lose their respect for you. This remorse you encounter is not rooted in your conscience, nor is this controversy vitiating your business, no matter how loudly the purporters of socio-political justice shriek. If your action or speech was guided by a policy determined during sober conditions, free of maudlin introspection, triggered by a heat wave of blame and curses, then rest assured, what you executed was condign. Now proudly stand by what you did. Issue a standard issue statement devoid of the puniest scintilla of apology. Proudly exclaim what you did and extol the principle that guided you to do it. You will find that should you refuse to budge, they will lay down their weapons rather quickly, or at least move on to a better, more weaker pasture so as to ruddy their hands with the shiniest new controversy. Hopefully, one where the subject terrifies readily. But in this process, they will have administered you the attention of hundreds of thousands, even millions of new prospects, so controversy is not really bad. A small minority who strongly self-identify with these justice warriors will remember to hate you. These people were never your ideal prospects anyway. The vast majority will hark onto your name and then swiftly glance over what is recounted about you in the media. They will certainly not investigate the facts. That's the vast majority. And they'll certainly not decide to side with you. In their docility, they will thoughtlessly opt to dislike you. Only their attention span shall prove even more flimsy than the knights who brandish their publishing weapons and charge against you. Without delay, they will forget most everything about you. The only thing that will eventually transpire is this. Weeks later, when they see your ad or hear about you in some other context, they'll recall that they've known you. They'll know that they've heard your name somehow. That will ironically make you trustworthy to them and better established in their minds than a company with no controversial or non-controversial background recall. And so media bashing controversy will actually prove to be a boon in the long run for you. But that's not all. There is another small minority of people who, upon hearing about the controversy, will actually check you out. They'll perform fact-checking and they'll weigh their arguments from both sides to varying degrees of rigor. If you have stood your ground, most of these people will end up siding with you. Not only siding with you, but also enormously respecting you for being a bulwark in the middle of a storm, rooted in principles and unshakable in structure. Many of them will become not just clients, but also raving fans of the most inexpugnable nature. Commandment number 9, connect with their emotions. Set yourself apart from all the other sellers. Connect with the buyer's deepest desires, pains, and fears. No matter how well accomplished and rational a man may seem, his mind is still an unhinged sea lush with the violent turbulence of emotions. Even the most ambitious man has dreams that his logical mind is unwilling to admit being real. Be the oasis of hope in the arid desert of restricting rationality. Employ all his senses, describe in lush detail the possibilities that steal away his sleep. Deep influence is only possible through deep knowledge of their unmentioned desires and fears. On the one hand, they have dreams. A banker may dream of being a rock star. He acquiesces that he'll never be one. He isn't aiming for it, but he still dreams of rock stardom in his most vaulted recesses of his mind. But remember, what he truly craves is the status that the rock stars are lavished with. The adoration of screaming nubile fans, the frenzy of followers, the experience of significance. While you may not have it in your puissance to alchemically transform into a rock star, what you can certainly do is create a theatrical shop where he experiences the sheer joy of being one. A doctor may dream of being a wealthy investor who need not work anymore. He may be jaded, for he has tried his hand at far too many investment opportunities of all types, and none have performed for him. His rational mind might be made up that such a dream is nothing more than a pipe dream, but at his core, he will never cease to yearn for the freedom. Freedom from all the stress he has to endure from having to work for extremely long periods of time. Freedom from having to be surrounded by sickness and, smell. In his own yearning is the key to his conversion. Your greatest pitch will hardly dent the sternum of his rational logic. Therefore, you must bypass logic and influence him at his core. And remember, your buyer is complicit in the justification of a purchase that he emotionally connects with. Your job is merely to demonstrate to him a possibility and to show him how other clients are enjoying the results. The hope is made real through demonstration. Show, don't tell. Commandment number 10, go boldly for the whales. In your acquisition of wealth, you can either go after the minnows or you can go after the whales. Whales are often considered to be difficult to acquire, expectant of extremely high quality of services and fewer in number. Offend one whale and many other whales will be cognizant of your impasse in short order. Sellers are often concerned that their offer may not be good enough for the whales. Cast away your fears. No matter what your station in the world, stride through life without apology or excuse. It matters not if objectively they can have a similar experience for less money with another seller. What matters is your positioning, your repute, which is largely a function of your confidence. How you think and act reveals your own opinion of yourself, a revelation in an enormous capacity. Whales, being experienced with a lot of sellers, have finely tuned galvanometers that uncover the tiniest of cracks in the shield of beliefs in one's own offer. Do not make it unavoidable for them to reject you. Self-confidence will often win you whales. Irrational self-confidence backed by constant innovation and investment in upgrading your own business, that will make the whales line up to sign up for your waiting list. Besides, whales are fewer in number, so you'll have less work to do, both in terms of reaching them as well as servicing them. They're capricious, they're conspicuous, or more visible, they are conspicuous by virtue of their own magnitude. And while they may bring 1,000 times more revenue than a minnow, they are not 1,000 times more inaccessible. The cost of acquiring a whale is certainly not 1,000 times higher than that of acquiring a minnow. If your offer is currently inadequate, invest in it until it becomes adequate. Then continue investing in it as long as you live. But do not hesitate to present your best offer right now at any time to a whale. Commandment number 11, ignore their wealth. In your acquisition of wealthy clients, you will likely interact with clients who earn in some cases tens of thousands of times as much as you do. This can be disconcerting for some sellers. The possibility of a very large sale and the mental picture of the consequent experiences to be gained as a result of the likely highly non-insignificant cash flow breed excitement. This excitement turns into debilitating nervousness when the seller realizes that one wrong word, one wrong move, and the chance is blown. The seller who trains his mind to stay in the present moment and subdue the mental pictures of rewards when interacting with a wealthy prospect will magically transform his power. His nervousness and apprehension will disapparate, leading to a more productive and self-respectful interaction with his clients, his prospects. And that is how the 80-20 principle works. Those who get used to dealing with the whales and to treating them as equals, even subordinates in relative status, though through numerous past experiences with other whales, appear to be magically confident in the company of any number of whales of any magnitude, thus converting most of their prospects into clients. While the vast majority of sellers who have no such fortune tend to freeze in the presence of a whale. It is helpful to avoid thinking about whales in terms of successful, powerful, wealthy. Do not compliment a whale on his accomplishments. Compliment him about his work ethic, his creativity, his processes, his thoughts, his behaviors, even his beliefs, but never his success. Decline one-on-one work with minnows and work with lots of whales so that you shatter your awe of them and to attain a zenith of transcendental clarity in anyone's presence. Rule number 12, maximize your strengths, outsource your weaknesses. Through developing your own business systems, you attract many prospective clients into your world. In order to magnetically attract prospects into your sphere of influence, you must know your strengths and invest your resources accordingly. If you are a gifted stage speaker but cannot endure speaking into a camera lens, then conduct a seminar and have that recorded. If you are gifted with satire and rant, then try not to impress the majesty of your philosophical musings with your readers. If you're a shining star but cannot handle all the grunt work that goes into running a business, then either hire people to do it for you or outsource it all. The only tasks you ought to be engaging in are the ones you are good at. Constantly practicing what you're good at will lead you towards mastery. And incidentally, whatever you are good at also becomes the core strength of your company. Everyone else and everything else can be and ought to be outsourced to some other company, one that specializes in doing whatever it is that you do not wish to do. Rule number 13, err on the side of too much follow-up rather than too little. Inadequate follow-up is epidemic for businesses worldwide, and the single greatest root cause for this lack is a lack of news. Most companies do not do anything new. They don't have new offers, they don't have news to share, they don't have anything to say, for they have nothing to display. The only greater detriment to a business's prosperity and growth than being forgotten is being bankrupt. So stay in their sights to stay in their minds. The best businesses I know follow up with clients and prospects up to 500 times each year through various media. Commandment number 14, make it the best experience they've ever had. Now, start by deciding what your competitive advantage is. This is usually whatever you perform differently from every other player in the marketplace. This is what you do best of all that you do. This is what you do better than anyone else. Engineer an experience around this competitive advantage, then innovate to develop it and constantly redevelop it so that it transcends the realm of the mundane. Your offer then transmutes in a unique and unparalleled offer. Consequently, your client walks out in an intoxicated stupor of mental and sensual engagement. Hire highly paid professionals in your industry, especially those whom your clients will be interacting with. Then train them extensively and regularly. Create unmatchable standards for your competitive advantage. Make it impossible for your clients to get that experience from someone else. Make it impossible for them to stop spending their money with you. Decipher their code. Discover what their hidden, secret need, desire, or fear is. Then satisfy them. But do so in a self-contained manner lest they lose their fervor. Cardinal rule number 15, develop a thick skin. Listen, you will be hated. That is the price you pay for being adored by your fans. You will be despised by some. That is the price for the admiration of your followers. You will be feared. That is the price you must pay for earning the respect of everyone who deals with you. You will be called names, you will be cursed, and you will be blamed for innumerable events that inexplicably go wrong, inevitably go wrong. The burden of blame belongs squarely to those who wield the glory of victory. If you let what everyone else is saying get to you, then you're doomed for a nightmarish experience. Straighten and strengthen your boundaries so that they become unassailable, so that no one might ever cause you stress. Set your sight on your prize, on your objectives, and never let it wander. Look around to gauge dangers and recognize opportunity if you must, but don't let your eye wander aimlessly, not until the objective has been achieved. Do not take personal offense to anything anyone says. Often by the time you succeed, your critics morph into your greatest allies. Last but not the least, number 16. This commandment is about walking away. You should never be afraid to walk away. You must never fear. Fear kills your status. It destroys your reputation. Fear permeates the strength of the bond between you and your existing clients and makes them reevaluate their confidence in you. Your fear will bring about a premature demise of your business expectation and relationship with a client. Fear stems from anxiety of the notion of losing their business. So face it. Let it stare you. Let it engulf you, envelop you, and then it'll slowly melt away. You will kick out a client if he wastes your time or violates your terms. You will let them leave a project mid-execution if their heart is not in it anymore. You will constantly work on strengthening your reputation and spreading your fame. This constant investment will constantly and consistently yield more and more people right to your waiting list. A client who can scare you with a threat of leaving controls your life. He will sooner or later call you late at night with impudence for something that isn't urgent. Do not ever allow anyone to treat you like that. Treat yourself with reverence and act accordingly. The closer you are to following these commandments, the easier you will find selling big ticket items can be for you, especially ones where one-on-one communication is necessary. My name is Lakshay Behl, and I'm here to help you with your big ticket business.